DNA from the 10,000-year-old Cheddar Man, Britain's oldest and complete human skeleton remains, reveals what Britain's first inhabitants actually looked like. Along with the fossil's facial reconstruction, DNA analysis performed shows that this young man had darker skin than previously thought, had dark and wavy hair, and blue eyes. But this example is not the first time that DNA from ancient skeletons offers surprising results about our ancestors. The rapid advances in genetic sequencing over the past few decades have opened an entirely new window on our looking back. 1. Our ancestors mated with Neanderthals. Archaeologists have known for some time that modern humans and Neanderthals lived together in Europe and Asia, but until recently we did not know much about the nature of this coexistence. In fact, the sequencing of a complete Neanderthal mitochondrial genome was first performed in 2008, and there was still uncertainty among both archaeologists and geneticists as to whether humans were hybridized with our closest relative. In 2010, the entire genome of a Neanderthal was sequenced, and as a result of comparisons with modern human DNA, all non-African people were found to carry fragments of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. This could only happen when humans and Neanderthals mated about 50,000 years ago, a result confirmed by research a few years later. 2. Interspecies mating adapted Tibetans to high altitudes. Fossilized finger was found in a cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. The finger was thought to belong to a Neanderthal, but genetic analysis revealed that the finger actually belonged to a new human species that was distinct from Neanderthals but closely related to them. Analyzing the full genome, it showed that this new human species, Denisovans, also mated with our ancestors. It seems that our ancestors' interspecific escapes were not limited to Neanderthals alone. Living in some of the world's tallest mountains, Tibetans have managed to survive at altitudes where many people would struggle with insufficient oxygen. Genetic analysis, Tibetans, he revealed that alongside the inhabitants of Ethiopia and the Andes Mountains, they have special genetic adaptations that enable them to process the sparse oxygen typical of this mountain air. Today, we now know that this genetic adaptation to altitude in Tibetans, they have a specific variant of the gene called EPAS1 is actually inherited from their ancestral mating with Denisovans. Apparently, improvements in immunity, metabolism, and diet in modern humans are due to beneficial genetic variants inherited from this crossbreeding with both Neanderthal. 3. Our ancestors evolved surprisingly fast. Interspecies mating is responsible for a tiny amount of human adaptation in the world. DNA analysis shows us that our ancestors migrated to various parts of the world and evolved into different environments and diets much faster than expected. For example, the evolution of lactose tolerance. The ability to digest milk from the age of 3 is not a universal feature. During the last ice age, milk was essentially a toxin for adults. Because adults could not produce the enzyme lactase, which is necessary for the digestion of lactose, the main sugar in milk. However, nearly 11,000 years ago, when hunter-gathering began to replace agriculture in the Middle East, cattle owners learned how to reduce the lactose in dairy products to a tolerable level by fermenting milk to make cheese and yogurt. A few thousand years after this event, a genetic mutation that spread throughout Europe gave people the ability to produce lactase enzyme and therefore drink milk throughout their lives. This adaptation opened the door to a new, rich and sustainable source of food for societies when harvest failed. When we look at the DNA of humans over the past 11,000 years, we see that this adaptation did not exist until about 4,000 years ago, and is still rare after that time. This too, it means that lactose tolerance has emerged very rapidly, spreading throughout Europe. 4. The first British people had a black skin color. DNA analysis obtained from the remains of Cheddar Man, one of Britain's first people. This young man, he revealed that he had darker skin, blue eyes and dark wavy hair than previously thought. On the other hand, we learned that by looking at its DNA, it cannot digest milk. Previous reenactments of Cheddar Man, which were not based on DNA data, described and animated him as much lighter. Learn that some of the first humans living on the island known as England today had dark skin and blue eyes. While fascinating and surprising, this stunning combination is not entirely predictable, given what we learned about Paleolithic Europe from ancient DNA. Dark skin was actually quite common in hunter-gatherers such as Cheddar Man, who lived in Europe thousands of years after his survival, and blue eyes have been seen since the Ice Age. 5. Immigrants from the East brought white skin to Europe. So if dark skin was common in Europe 10,000 years ago, how did Europeans get white skin? There are no hunter-gatherers left in Europe and very few in the world. Agriculture has replaced hunting as a way of life, and we know that agriculture spread to Europe from the Middle East. Genetics taught us that this change involves a significant movement of humans. On the other hand, we also know that there was a large influx of people from the Russian and Ukrainian steppes about 5,000 years ago. Besides DNA, Yamnaya people, nomads from Russia and Ukraine, also brought domesticated horses and castors to Europe. Moreover, they brought in the Proto-Indo-European language from which perhaps almost all modern European languages originated. So whether it is brought white skin to Europe by Yamnaya or Middle Eastern immigrant groups may be a good argument subject. Considering that it can absorb sunlight better and help synthesize vitamin D, the evolution of white skin as an adaptation to low-level sunlight has yielded beneficial results.